r/AskReddit. What are your roommate horror stories? Not me, but my cousin had a roommate her freshman year of college that had to listen to Harry Potter book 1 on tape every single night to fall asleep. My cousin bought her headphones, but she refused to wear them because they hurt her ears. She would play it on a portable speaker loud enough to keep my cousin awake all night. The worst part, she wouldn't even start the tape where she left off the previous night. She would play the beginning every night over and over again. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive. Edit. It gets worse. Turns out the roommate wasn't even a fan of the series, had never watched any of the movies or read the other books, didn't know any characters, and as far as my cousin knows she never even finished the first book because she'd fall asleep every time she started it. A very sheltered roommate I had living downstairs was very open about her singing. She had no shame and talent to match. Singing Tis Believe was one of her Saturday morning go-tos. Hey, it could be worse, right? Well, maybe 5 AM is just too early for cheer. But what was most disturbing was her Backstreet Boys rendition of I Want It That Way. This is when things get odd. Maybe she was just trolling me, but she would belt out this tune when she got ready for bed after an evening shift. The odd thing about it was how long she would sing it for. There were nights where I would wake up at 4 AM and she was still singing. Just as bad and just as passionate. I had enough. I went downstairs to ask her to wait until morning. But it was dark. No lights at all. Even in her room it was dark 4 AM and she's singing her heart out in bed. So I knock and the singing stops. She opens the door all confused and she barely has a voice left. The next morning I apologize for surprising her, but I couldn't sleep with all her Backstreet Boys singing. She doesn't understand what I'm talking about, but it suddenly occurred to me that she was singing in her sleep every night. So how could I expect her to just not sing in her sleep? Maybe she was trolling me. But for 8 months this little woman with no friends and no family close by sung Backstreet Boys in her sleep. I used to live with 3 other girls. I got along with one of them really well, but the other 2 were casual friends at best. I know most people like to say that they're the one who does the dishes the most, but generally it was me that took care of it. I did them about twice a week because they just piled up every couple of days and nobody would touch them. No big deal. I figured that everybody has different rates for when they want to do dishes, and if my roommates only wanted them washed once a week or so, then I was the odd man out for wanting them cleaned twice a week. So I usually just ended up doing it myself. I didn't mind. We had a lot of other little conflicts over the semester, but I always kind of prided ourselves on the fact that we never had a quarrel about dishes. Fast forward a year, I'm living with some new roommates who were friends with the old ones. I'm telling them about the dishes and how I felt that if somebody in the apartment wants a certain chore to be done a certain way, they should do it themselves and not expect everyone else to cater to their need if nobody else cares about it. One of them gets a weird look on their face and I ask what's up. She says those girls said you never did the dishes. They said you let them sit in the sink for 3 days without cleaning them. Turns out that the girls in the apartment really wanted the dishes done every day, but they were too passive aggressive to actually talk to each other about it, so they just let them sit in the sink for 3 days until somebody cracked and did them as punishment. It was absurd. You're a 20-year-old woman and you can't talk to your roommates about some dishes? I spent a summer living at a friend's house and it almost had me in tears. I go to school far away from my home and decided to stay the summer in my school area. Thing was the dorms kick you out from May to August, so I had to finish a summer home for a few months. My friend offered to let me stay at her house. Very cheap rent and cool. I moved in. Now I had already known she was a messy person and had accepted that fact, and I'd do my best to keep my space and the common space clean. Well, it was just a disaster from start to finish. She has 3 dogs, great animals, but the amount of hair and dirt they produce you had to sweep and vacuumed once a week. I swept and vacuumed. She didn't work, I did. Full-time server. She never cleaned, once. I did the dishes, I mopped the floors, I took care of the dogs. She kept the dogs crated all the time for no reason. She was always home, yet I'd get home and have to let them out. They weren't even my dogs, I just felt so bad for them. I would come home 10 PM from working all day, make dinner, clean the kitchen, and go to bed. Wake up to her having had people over that night. probably getting high drunk whatever, and the kitchen is now trashed with fast food and dishes. So I'd get to clean again, just so I could make breakfast. Oh yeah, her friends, really nice people all around, but they would come over all the time. They would come over unannounced and walk right in. No knocking, nothing. I once was doing laundry and had bras and underwear all over the living room. They just showed up with no warning and sat on my clean laundry. I was in the shower. Eventually I just gave up. Other than taking care of the dogs, I kept my room and bathroom clean and just stayed out of the house as much as possible. Ducking horrible. Not so much a nightmare roommate, but I had a ridiculously sheltered and possibly OCD freshman year roommate. In our dorm, the most popular layout of furniture to maximize the space in the room without bunking the beds was putting them in an L shape, so that one was against the wall with the window, leaving a nice area of open space to hang out in the center of the room. Her mother decided we were not allowed to do this because one of us might roll over in our sleep and fall out the window to our demise 10 floors below. Mind you, the window was 2 feet above the level of the bed and bolted shut. Every night before we went to sleep, Rumi would lock the door, turn the handle to the right, pull on the door 3 times, turn left, pull 3 times, turn right again, and pull 3 times. Every single night. One day I had just taken out the trash and shortly after thrown out some scrap paper in the bin next to our sink. Rumi went to brush her teeth and accidentally knocked her toothbrush into said bin. Rumi proceeds to call her mother to ask whether she should wash off her toothbrush and use it, or throw it away and buy a new. She and her mother discuss the topic for about 10 minutes, with Rumi describing the contents of the bin and exactly how long the toothbrush spent in there. Mom apparently then transfers the call to Rumi's dad, and the conversation repeats. After discussing the matter at length, it was decided that Rumi should buy a new toothbrush. Nice girl. Felt bad for her. Hope she was able to branch out a bit. I've posted this before, but my first roommates invaded my privacy by stealth installing screen viewer software on my desktop and cyberstalking me. They would do shit like ban my MAC address from the router, which belonged to me, type while I was trying to do homework assignments on my computer, harass me by typing expletives, putting a hard drive in my computer and cloning my main drive onto it, and out me to other roommates and online friends to a certain fandom I was part of at the time. I genuinely believed I was being targeted by an online hacker. I was just a naive, sheltered child with social anxiety. It wasn't until the only decent roommate I had opened up to me and told me what was going on. There were other things, like threats of ganging up on me, and shit like saran wrap on the toilet seat and peanut butter in my shoes. I have many stories of my college roommates, but the one that stands out the most was the shower incident. My girlfriend and I were renting a house with a female friend who liked to play fast and loose with the term hijji. From this point on, she'll be known as the barista. We were fairly accustomed to the less than ideal odors that would waft gently around the barista, such as when she adopted a diet consisting entirely of hard-boiled eggs, or the nutmeg incident. The house we were sharing was built in the 1960s, and we had separate bathrooms. The barista's bathroom was generally heinous in both smell and appearance, with used tampons and other feminine detritus scattered around. As a result, it took us a while to realize that the smell of raw sewage belching forth from her side of the house was not, in fact, her fault. One day, my girlfriend and I were watching TV while the barista was at work, and we heard an ominous gurgling noise from her bathroom. Shortly thereafter, we were assaulted by the smell of raw sewage that was so strong it caused my girlfriend, at the time, an autopsy technician, to literally dry heave. Clearly, an investigation had to be mounted, so we made the perilous journey into the barista's bathroom, stepping cautiously to avoid the used condoms and other keepsakes in her biohazard collection. When we arrived, we discovered that raw, chunky sewage was liberally bubbling up from the drain in the barista's shower, which was so coated in pubic hair, mold, and stains it looked like a modern art masterpiece. The smell was horrific, and we immediately called the landlady. When the barista returned home from her shift, she was horrified that the lawn had been torn up to expose the shitty Orangeburg sewer pipes that had been nearly entirely blocked by tree roots. Since the barista's bathroom was the closest to the sewer main, the backups had been bubbling up in her bathroom for months without the rest of the house being aware. We asked her if she had noticed the issue, and she mentioned that sewage regularly bubbled up from the drain while she was showering bi-weekly. Her response: "I just squish it back down with my feet." That was when she got a new nickname, Waffle Stomp. Waffle Stomp and her moronic family gave us many stories in the year and a half we lived together, and she also introduced us to our second shitty roommate, statutory rape neo-Nazi. Thank you for watching Reddit. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more r/AskReddit videos. Share your stories in the comment section below.